substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Canaan Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees, so fair. Today is Wednesday, the 15th day of February 2023, right here in the beautiful Cayman Islands, the day after Valentine's Day. We hope and we trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable evening. That you had a lovely Valentine's Day as well. Today, like we said, Wednesday, the 15th day of February 2023. For those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we urge you to please be extremely cautious, whether you're a pedestrian or a cyclist or operating any type of motorized vehicle. We urge you to please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road. Remember, the life you save may just be your own. For those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday and to remind you that For the Record birthday shout-outs are proudly brought to you by life insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center, whose advice to you is to make the right decision for your family's future today. For those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to express our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these very challenging times and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing to you as well. Those of you who are ill and are either at home or at a medical facility here in the Cayman Islands or overseas, we wish you a speedy recovery as well. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, the phone lines are open. This morning, again, it is that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson waiting to take your calls. You can call us on a toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord at candw.ky. WhatsApp us 925-3261. Follow us on YouTube by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. And of course, we are on Facebook as well. So, again, this segment of For the Record, the birthday shout-outs proudly brought to you by by life insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center, whose advice to you is to make the right decision for your family's future today. So let's see who's celebrating a birthday. And I gave you advance notice of this on several occasions. Miss Kim Bullen celebrating her birthday today. She is the Clerk of Cabinet. So Miss Kim, we want to wish you a happy birthday, and we know that you know how to celebrate. You know how to celebrate a birthday, so I have no doubt in my mind that you will be having a wonderful celebration today. Let's see who else is celebrating a birthday. We have Denise Ebanks. She's celebrating a birthday today. Nikita Stewart also celebrating a birthday. And I think this person is an entertainer, Kalia Rose, who's celebrating a birthday also today. And to remind you that the For the Record birthday shout-outs proudly brought to you by life insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center, whose advice to you is to make the right decision for your family's future today. There's some other things we want to remind you of as well. And, of course, you know the agricultural show will be taking place next week, Wednesday, the 22nd of February. And the registration for the baby show at the agricultural fair, it's ongoing until the 17th of February. So the baby show is back at the agricultural fair on Ash Wednesday, the 22nd of February, 2023. Newborn babies and those up to 4 years old can be registered for the different age categories. If you are interested, please contact Miss Zita Mae Bodden. She can be contacted at 929-9932, or you can register trying to see the information on the registration. But I think probably the quickest way, contact Ms. Zita Mae Bodden, 929-9932. And I'm sure that all of you proud parents out there of babies, youngsters between up to 4 years of age will be extremely proud. Now, I'm not going to call any names, but in the agricultural show, the baby show goes back quite some time. I believe that probably the first agriculture show that we also had the baby show as well. And of course, that was when it was held. The agriculture show was held. What we used to call, those days it was called the base. It was held at the base. Of course, that's right behind the library. The base was when the Americans were here during World War II, where they were located. And, of course, the commercial center was located there for the school. Also, the high school at that time, which was run by Emsley, that was located there as well. We had also the government warehouse part of it. The customs part of it was also located there. And right behind it was an area we call Catabush. I think a gentleman by the name of Cuthbert Bodden owned the property, but we called it Catabush. And I recall those days, you had guinea trees back there, breadfruit trees back there, mango trees back there, and the cattle that was on display and stuff like that. We didn't have pens in those days. They were all tied to the various trees that were there. But there was a baby show then as well, and a few notable Caymanians, prominent Caymanians now. At that time, when they were babies, they were entered into the baby show as well. But I won't call any names of anyone. Of course, they would not have been responsible for entering themselves. Their parents, feeling extremely proud of them, entered them into the show. So we encourage you that if you have an interest, if you have a child up to 4 years of age, you can register them in The Baby Show, contact Mrs. Zeta May Borden at 929-9932 to register. Okay, we're going to take our first commercial break. When we return, I want to share with you, I'm going to try to parse some of this. We won't have a whole lot of time, but Premier, the Honorable Wayne Panton, did at the Chamber of Commerce's annual general meeting on last Thursday, the 9th of February, delivered a speech, and I want to share some of the contents of the Premier's speech to those persons attending the Chamber of Commerce's annual general meeting. We're going to take a commercial break, so we won't take any calls between now and 8 o'clock because I want to share the contents, or at least some of the contents of the Premier's speech. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Cayman's public library system started in Georgetown in 1920 when the government included an annual grant of £40 in the budget for the establishment of a subscription library. The library was located in a room above the old jail next to the old courthouse. At the end of 1937, plans were made for building a larger library at Georgetown to include reading and reference rooms. The new building was designed by Captain Ray O'Bodden and completed in 1939. The distinctive timbered ceilings was fashioned after a ship's hull turned upside down. The ends of the hammer beams are decorated with the shields of prominent British institutions of learning. The new library opened its doors to the public in 1940, and for a long time the main source of printed matter was the Ranfurly Library in England. Lady Ranfurly, wife of a colonial governor, started the project of collecting used books for shipment to British territories where books were in short supply. In 1980, the first trained librarian took over the running of the public library.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
It's all about humanity.
It will be Saturday, March 4th, the 11th annual Rotary Central Health Check, the almost island-wide Rotary Health Screening. See us at Foster's Republic's West Bay, Cost You Less at Governor Square, West Bay Road, A.L. Thompson's Georgetown, Foster's at Countryside in Savannah, Bordentown, from 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Take advantage of a free mini-medical, a physician's check on your blood pressure, your A1C, your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your healthy weight evaluation, and more. The 11th annual Rotary Central Health Check in conjunction with the Health Services Authority. Saturday, March 4. Save this date that could save your life. Rotary, all the good you imagine.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Did you know that you can send money transfers to financial institutions anywhere in Jamaica with JN Money?
You mean I can send money straight to my account and cut out the middleman?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. You send your own money to your own account, giving you peace of mind that the money is in your account.
JN Money Transfers to Financial Institution is another convenient service offered by JN Money. You can have this done from any JN Money location. Deposit your money straight to your account without the hassle of asking someone to do it for you. JN Money Transfers to Financial Institutions, making life easier.
They say you only live once. I say you only die once, but you live every day. I'm Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center, longtime supporter of Radio Cayman. Live your life, my friends. Happiness is in the journey, not the destination. When you're ready, I'm here to support you with the best financial decisions for your family's future. Cayman Insurance Center, protecting you and your family so you can take back your future. I'm Michael Webster, the sure way to protect your family. Call me when you're ready at 925-5433. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets.
Think life insurance.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Before I share some of the contents of the Premier's address to the Chamber of Commerce at the Chamber of Commerce's annual general meeting last week, Thursday. We have happy birthday greetings going out to Miss Marilyn Rankin of East End, and she celebrates her 88th birthday. I assuming that it is today, but if it isn't, whether it's today or tomorrow or yesterday, 88 years on this planet is quite a milestone. And we want to say to Miss Marilyn, enjoy it, and we hope you live to see many, many more as well. So the Premier gave his address to the members of the Chamber of Commerce and I guess their guests at their annual general meeting. He started off by congratulating the changeover of the presidency of the Chamber of Commerce. He used a quote from Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which says transitions are a time for reflection and a time for looking forward. And then he spoke to the fact that it was a day of transition at the Chamber of Commerce, honoring the works and achievements of outgoing President Shamara Scott and welcoming the new leadership of incoming President Nelson Dilbert. And then he goes on to speak more about them. I'm going to be looking for some of the policy issues that he may have spoken to as well. So here he says, ladies and gentlemen, I began today speaking about transition and change. And just under 2 short years ago, the people of the Cayman Islands voted for change. They voted for a new way of doing things. And while things have not been perfect, we have strived to run a government that puts the needs of our people at the center, grows the economy, and ensures that businesses thrive. At the core of our government's philosophy is ensuring that the rising tide that is our growing economy lifts all boats. And I know we like to use that phrase, rising tide will lift all boats, but what happens if you don't have a boat? What happens if you're not in a boat? Then I guess you miss the tide. You have to stay on the land and fish for yourself and They say sometimes the fish will bite depending on the tide, so you have to wait for the right tide for you to catch your fish while you're on land if you don't have a boat. So sometimes we have to be careful how we use these analogies about things like a rising tide, lifts all boats, because if you don't have a boat, then you're not including in that at all. So he went on to say that, my friends, in just 2 short months, our government will reach the midterm mark. When we took office, country was quite literally closed. Government revenues had fallen off a cliff. Businesses, both small and large, were struggling to keep the lights on. Some workers lost their jobs and their income. It was a difficult time, and while those times seem like a world away in our new reopened economy, the reality is that we were in the darkest days of the pandemic just 2 short years ago, and its impacts still live with us today. He goes on to say that he was proud of what they have accomplished over the past 2 years. It did not matter whether we were business leaders or workers or serving in government. It did not matter whether we have lived in Cayman for generations or if we have more recently called these islands home. We came together, we rolled out up our sleeves, and we worked together. We worked together to safely reopen our economy and get our beloved Cayman Islands working again. Today, thanks to tireless work over the last 2 years by this government and private sector partners, I am pleased to report that our economy is strong and getting stronger. Our economic growth rate is amongst the best in the region. We are in excess of 3.5% in real terms based on the last published numbers. International business is thriving. Hotels are full again. That's true. You don't hear the hotelers complaining now about their bookings. We don't hear them complaining anymore about their inability to get work permits either. It's so funny. You hear the voices when they have something to complain about, but when it's time to heap the accolades on the persons who make it happen, then they're extremely quiet as well. Those are just my words. I'm adding to that as well. It says, and jobs are available up and down the economic ladder. It is my pleasure to report that thanks to the successful reopening of the economy, there will be a surplus in this year's budget. Over the last 2 years, we have accomplished so much for business and people. And these are the bullet points. We extended the reduction of business fees for small and micro businesses through the 31st of December 2023. And it is working. From June 2021 to June 2022, 314 small businesses benefited from CI $166,294 in fee discounts, and during the same time period, 1,958 micro businesses benefited from $1.4 million in fee discounts. We also reduced the liquor licensing fee, and this benefited 380 license holders. The temporary reduction in fees ranged from $1,000 for retail licenses to standalone bars and nightclubs to a distributor license of $4,800. We also have made significant progress in meeting the ever-changing standards of the global financial regulatory regime. Specifically, we improved technical compliance and are largely compliant with the 40 FATF recommendations. We have made strong progress towards completing the FATF's 3-point plan issued in February of 2021. We are developing a consolidated Beneficial Ownership Act and examining the European Union's Court of Justice's November judgment regarding beneficial ownership register to understand its impact. Running out of time here, so I want to, if I go down to his conclusion, this is sort of unfair to have to miss all of it, but limited with time here. If time allows later on, I will share more with you because his speech was quite extensive. And so he goes on to say, to outgoing President Scott, thank you for all that you have done for our country and our economy. To incoming President Dilbert, congratulations and best of luck during your tenure. I look forward to working with you to build a stronger and more secure economy where the rising tide of prosperity truly raises all ships or all people across our 3 islands. Folks, we've reached that time, top of the hour, headline news. When we return after the news, we should have the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Joe Hugh, in the studio, who are committed to returning today as well. So we look forward to having a discussion with him. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Foster's is 7:59.
Looking for better prices?
You'll always find them at Foster's.
Just like a Revlon hairdryer, $29.99. Save $18.
Or find better value on Chobani yogurts, 21.2 ounce, just $6.99. Save $2.40. And Nabisco Honey Made graham crackers, 14.4 ounce, $3.49. Save $2.
Want even more great specials? Then shop online at fosters.ky. Foster's, better prices because we care.
Prices good until February 22nd, 2023.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, plus a Cayman Island.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. The Cayman Islands Coast Guard continues its efforts to crack down on illicit contraband. This following a recent patrol that resulted in a number of packages recovered from a vessel. Radio Cayman's Shanda Gallego reports.
While engaged in border protection patrols to the south of Grand Cayman on Sunday, the Cayman Islands Coast Guard was alerted to the presence of a single vessel of interest traveling towards the island. When approached, the vessel increased its speed and attempted to evade the CICG vessel, resulting in a chase. During the chase, officers on board the CICG vessel observed that a number of packages were being thrown into the ocean by the persons on board the vessel being followed. As the CICG closed the distance between them, the operator of the vessel being followed attempted to evade capture by running his vessel into the side of CICG vessel on 3 occasions. The vessel was eventually stopped and the occupants, 3 men, were questioned as to their actions. During this time, the vessel they were on began to take on water and eventually sunk. Having been taken on board the CICG vessel, they were subsequently arrested on suspicion of being concerned with the importation of controlled drugs into the islands and were taken to shore and handed over to the RCIPS. The men were subsequently taken to the Cayman Islands Hospital as they reported having injuries. With the assistance of the RCIPS Air Operations Unit, a number of packages were recovered from the ocean and subsequently handed over to the police. All 3 men were examined at the Cayman Islands Hospital and released later that night. They remain in custody pending further investigation by the police. The CICG vessel involved in the chase, although sustaining some damage, remains operational, and luckily, none of its crew members sustained serious injuries. Shanda Gallego, Radio Cayman News.
And Off-Reg recently paid the sister island Cayman Brac a visit. Radio Cayman's Felicia Rankin-Solins has this report.
The visit provided the Off-Reg team with an opportunity to view the current infrastructure and installations in place. The discussions allowed the team to learn firsthand what issues operators are experiencing in delivering service, what their future plans for development are, and how Off-Reg can assist in better regulating the various sectors for the benefit of consumers. The team also met with District Commissioner Mr. Mark Tibbetts to discuss how Off-Reg is working to promote sustainable utilities development and consumer protection in the sister islands. During a meeting with representatives from Island Energy Limited, the off-reg team was provided with an understanding of their current operations and in particular their future plans to transition to renewable energy to a degree that works for the consumer. Interim CEO Mr. Peter Goff, part of the off-reg team who made the trip, states, "This visit is a great opportunity to engage with licensees directly and understand the essential utilities and services they provide on the 3 islands. It is essential to understand the challenges they face and support them in delivering reliable and affordable services to the public." I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller.
I'm Neil Nunes with the BBC News. The United Nations is appealing for more than $5 billion in aid for Ukraine and neighboring countries. The UN says millions of people need support with housing, healthcare and food. It's been nearly a year since Russia launched its invasion. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Western allies are discussing ways of reinforcing NATO's eastern flank. Defense ministers from the alliance are meeting for a second day in Brussels. Jordan's foreign minister has arrived in Damascus on the kingdom's first high-level visit to Syria for more than a decade. Jordanian officials say Ayman Safadi wants to show solidarity after last week's devastating earthquakes. One of the 12 children dramatically rescued from a flooded cave in Thailand 5 years ago has died. Duangpet Prontep was injured while attending a football academy in the UK. He was found unconscious in his dormitory on Sunday. Elderly people in China have for the second time protested against reductions in their medical benefits. Pensioners rallied in Wuhan and Dalian. Many retired people are angry at steep cuts in the monthly allowance they receive from local governments. The Supreme Court of Nigeria is hearing a legal challenge to the government's policy of scrapping old banknotes, which has caused a severe cash shortage. More states, including Lagos and Katsina, have joined the case. BBC World News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com. Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
It's time to update your information. If you've recently changed your mailing address, phone number, or email address, please let your Water Authority customer service team know. Remember, non-receipt of a bill does not constitute a release from liability for payment. Visit our website, www.waterauthority.ky, to download and fill out our customer information update form. Or you can contact our customer service team at info@waterauthority.ky or call 949-2837.
Whether it's routine care or highly complex surgery, when it comes to your health, you want the best. Health City has Cayman's most comprehensive range of in-house medical services. Recognized for quality and excellence, Health City brings together expert doctors, the best technology, and the latest techniques to understand your health and ensure you get the care you need. From Camana Bay to East End, you can trust the team at Health City. Health City, world-class healthcare within your reach.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Head east on Cove Road.
Sharp left on Church Street. Sharper left. No, your other left. Did I say left? Nope, you missed it. Okay, I'm lost.
With money-saving bundling options for home and motor, we're like a GPS that doesn't steer you wrong. CG Brit K. Good like that.
Let's stop and ask for directions.
As a good morning, let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 78 degrees. Relative humidity is 84%. The barometric pressure, 30.03 inches and rising. The wind is out of the east-northeast at 10 knots. Overnight low temperature was 76 degrees. Isolated showers along with moderate winds and seas are expected over the Cayman area today as perturbations move along the area of a high-pressure system centered over the western Atlantic Ocean. Radar images show isolated showers around the Cayman area, which are moving towards the west-southwest. The forecast for today calling for partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 40% chance of morning showers, and temperatures will be in the mid-80s today. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Pretty much the same for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers, and temperatures dipping to the mid-70s tonight. Winds will be east to southeast, 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Low tide will be this afternoon at 12:45. High tide this evening at 5:22. The sun will set this evening at 6:24 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:54. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Friday evening.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Brit K, where people come first.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Change your thinking, change your life. Mastering the art of communication can open doors for you.
As Susie Kassem wrote in her book, Rise Up and Salute the Sun, we cannot control the way people interpret our ideas or thoughts, but we can control the words and tones we choose to convey them. Peace is built on understanding, and wars are built on misunderstandings. Never underestimate the power of a single word, and never recklessly throw around words. One wrong word or misinterpreted word can change the meaning of an entire sentence and start a war. And one right word or one kind word can grant you the heavens and open doors.
Change your thinking, change your life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. Encourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning, and as I look to the cameras, I can see the frustration on your face if you're coming from the east, as traffic is extremely heavy. Coming off of Rex Crichton Boulevard, also on Shamrock Road, busy traffic on the Linford Pearson Highway. Traffic also busy heading to Georgetown on Crew Road. Eastbound traffic on Crew Road is moderate. Traffic Busy coming off of Bobby Thompson Way and steady traffic off the Linford Pearson Highway on Agnes Way. But don't worry, you're going to get to your destination. Light traffic on Owen Roberts Drive, and traffic is moving on moderately coming from the West Bay 4-way stop. Moderate flow of traffic in Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue. As we look to downtown Georgetown on Edward Street, light to moderate traffic flow, as well as coming out of Georgetown on Shedden Road. And traffic steady coming off of the Estelle Tibbetts Highway and continuing on to North Sound Road, Industrial Park area, moderate flow of traffic. And that's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. We'll give you another traffic report.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Coming in hot.
Coming in hot for the Red Dot sale only at Reflections. Clearance sale on men's and women's shoes. Nike, Reebok, Adidas, Puma, Dockers, and more. Limited styles available. Get yours before they're gone. Spot the Red Dot on any tagged item and receive up to 50% off. Ladies, save up to 50% off on clothing. Just in time to find your perfect Valentine's outfit or Valentine's gift with lingerie and personal massages at 10% off. Save on dresses, blouses, pants, and find even greater savings in our clearance baskets. Men, spot the Red Dot on any tagged item and receive up to 50% off on brands like US Polo, Dockers, and 20% off on all gym apparel. Levi jeans starting at $34. There is something for everyone. Reflections Clothing Store located on Shedden Road beside the Mango Tree across from Kirk Napa. Open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 9 to 9 p.m.
Add another 10% off at the Red Dot sale this week only at Reflections. Sale ends Saturday, February 18th.
Cocoa Fest is back at Pedro St. James, Saturday the 18th of February. From noon to 6 p.m., enjoy crafts, games, music, coconut-inspired food and treats, health and beauty products, and enjoy local cooks, craftsmen, artisans, and farmers through a shared love of the Cayman coconut. Admission is only $10 for adults and $5 for kids 6 to 12 in age. 6 and under get in free. So go coconuts at Cocoa Fest and enjoy one of Cayman's culture and tradition Saturday, February 18th. For more info, go to info@pedrostjames.ky.
Brought to you by Proven Bank.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. As promised, in the studio with me again this morning is the Deputy Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. Last week, Wednesday, he promised that he would be on again. The plans are for him to come on at least every other Wednesday. But with this coming Wednesday being a holiday, Ash Wednesday, so he decided to come on 2 consecutive Wednesdays. So, Mr. Hugh, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. Great to have you on board.
Good morning, OC, and thank you, and good morning to the listening public and those perhaps watching on YouTube. And happy belated Valentine's to everyone out there. And we also know, OC, that some people find this time of the year difficult, especially if they've had recent loss. And so we want to keep those persons in our minds and thoughts during this time as well.
Certainly, yes. Okay, what are some of the things we're going to be talking about today?
Well, see, we can talk about there's a lot of things to talk about, I guess. There's a lot of stuff in the news this week. We can touch on some of those. Interesting what will happen with the announcement on the port development, cargo port development. Something that has been signaled over the years that perhaps as a country grows, needs of the port may need, or the port may not meet its needs and may need expanding. And one of the challenges, OC, has always been the port being a dual facility, that for cruise tourism and for cargo. And at the height of importation, during COVID, when we had a spike in, or just after COVID, when we had a spike in importation, I think a lot of people were ordering things, people were starting back construction, etc. It was difficult. Quite often they had to push boat ships back off and to receive cruise ships and that sort of stuff. But I think it'll be interesting to see what the business case or business study and then outline business case comes back to say. Because with a drop in cruise numbers, there's a couple of things we have to. The government announced that there will be at least up to about a 50% reduction in cruise numbers next year. So far, that was the bookings that they received, that majority of the cruise lines have now gone to the mega ships and have decided to exclude Cayman in their stops. As we kind of figured that was going to happen. They told us that years ago. Many of us thought they were bluffing. But as they have purchased properties around this region and developed their own ports, I think they're seeing the amount of time that they would have to spend in Cayman, jostling for tenders, etc., and the overall experience of the clients. They've decided to exclude us. So if numbers fall on the cruise tourism side to 40% of what it used to be, then it'll be interesting to see whether we do have the need to expand the port from that point of view, where as far as capacity of handling the ships coming in. I think the minister raised the question of whether or not we would be able to have larger ships. This has been a point that's been raised in the past. I know we've looked at. I know in the same press conference he announced the Panama flight, and he also talked about the connection and the possibilities from Panama, which the Chamber of Commerce, and in fact during my year as president in the wake of Hurricane Ivan, we looked at Panama as a backup or perhaps to establish some trade with Panama, because we were unable, if you have a situation like we did with Ivan, where immediately following that, Florida is hit by hurricanes and the southeast, and then we even looked at Houston, and then Houston got, I think New Orleans was hit, and then they evacuated all the people to Houston. So all of the resources in both the southeast and the southwest of the U.S. were absorbed into the recovery for Florida. So we did look at Panama, and one of the issues with trade with Panama is the larger ships that would need to bring the goods, but you can ship through Miami and come here. So these will be interesting things to consider. It should all come out in the outline business case, but I'm just concerned with a couple of things. With will there be a need for a larger port now that cruise numbers have fallen, and B, how will we pay for it? Because with the reduction of 50% reduction in cruise numbers, that's a 50% reduction in the head tax, which could be as much as about $10 million a year reduction in the Port Authority revenue. And if we even have a slight dip in cargo because of the concerns of a recession, which is looking less and less likely. In fact, both the U.S. and the U.K. are not reacting in the way they thought they would react to the feds. But if there is even a slight reduction in port duties, we also know that most of the major construction projects are coming to an end now. We don't see any major new ones coming up, and housing has sort of settled down as well. So,
is there a reason for the lull in construction?
That's a loaded question. I think the housing market, the ability to get mortgages and the cost of goods is still prohibitive. There are some projects that are being proposed. I think they're waiting to see what the pre-sales will bring, but we also know that with the recent increase in interest rates, a lot of persons who had once qualified for a home no longer qualify. So we'll have to wait for that to settle down. On the larger side, institutional side, if you want to call it that, I think majority of that construction happens on the West Bay Road. There's a lot of interest in redeveloping a lot of the older condos, which I spoke about during the debate about building heights, because these condos are now facing renovations. A lot of them have challenges with the updated planning codes. A lot of them don't have elevators up to 3 stories. Majority of them don't have the facilities for handicap, which are required under the planning laws.
Okay.
The electrical, plumbing, that has all changed. And I think people are going to have to make some tough decisions. Do we go through the expense of renovating and bringing it up to code, or do we knock it down and rebuild? And if you consider that, I think what the developers are waiting on is a comprehensive national review of the National Development Plan. And West Bay Road could have been completed by now if they had continued on with the Plan Cayman project that we started in our administration. As I said, it's not my project. It's the Department of Planning or the CPA's project, in fact. And a lot of hard work was done by the young men and women in the department for the CPA. And hopefully, I don't think it's dead yet. I know that the current minister, Minister Ebanks, supports, and his ministry supports the Plan Cayman proposal. They can change the name, they can tweak it, whatever. But I think everything that they have, all of the reviews that they have done of this of Plan Cayman have come back to say this is a viable plan. This is one of the best we've seen. I've found that out personally. So I think that's where we are with construction. There's a bit of we heard major developers in the news say that they're pencils down. And they'll remain pencils down, meaning that they are no longer planning anything in the future until they know what the future holds from a development perspective or a national development plan perspective.
Now, part of that future, and it seems as if we aren't yet, we haven't agreed where we're going to be as far as building heights are concerned, because I'm sure that developers may not want to start to build with the 10-story limit that we have now.
Right.
And then you find out later on that you can double that or something, as well. Yeah. So those are important decisions that would affect development as well.
It's a bit deeper than that, because you're absolutely right, and there are structural limitations, right? So that foundation and that structure, once you start, there's a certain height you can go with it. And so people would hate to know that they've started their project and then find out later on that they could go higher, or they spend the money to go higher and find out they can't. So, and the other thing about it, OC, is that the National Development Plan, I don't want the public and I don't want us to get caught up. Building heights and setbacks and public accesses are a huge part of it, especially for 7 Mile Beach, right? So that is important. And just quickly to say that if you're going to if we can't move the road, if you're going to tell people you're going to devalue their property by having them to come further back and perhaps even closer in, then you need to, there should be some trade-off to say, okay, we'll give you extra square footage vertically if you set your property further back. But the other thing about the National Development Plan, OC, that it is key. It is key to housing. It is key to public transportation. And it's overall obviously key to the development of our infrastructure as far as commercial development, industrial development, and the urban planning of areas, that we have the opportunity to do so now before it becomes too developed, that it proves impossible to plan it. So I think these are, we look at housing. I want to talk about housing as I think that right now, especially in young Caymanians' minds, but even I think young Caymanians, new Caymanians, I think everyone is feeling the housing crisis right now. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the the National Development Plan is a huge key to that, because without proper zoning, right? And I've always said three of the key contributors to the building boom, the housing boom. It's good because a lot of Caymanians made good money. A lot of Caymanians doubled their investment and sold, their current home for 3 times what they built it for and bought another home and stuff like that. So it had its purposes. And it's just a matter of supply and demand. It could be the opposite way around, where there's absolutely no supply and there's a lot of demand. I mean, no building happening and people are, can't find places to live. Just so happened that the prices with demand and COVID and everything else escalated the prices. But we had the addition of Airbnb. So a lot of the homes, OC, if you remember, we had, our administration one year had a 20% increase in room inventory, right? Some 400 and something rooms or something like that, with no new hotels.
Wow.
So that's Airbnb. That's what Airbnb brought for us. And it brought in tourism tax. It brought in stay-over tourists that spend money on the ground and stuff. It had its, again, it has its pros, but the cons were that a lot of the homes that would normally go into the long-term rental market, especially in that middle-income sector, went into Airbnb. And then also a lot of homes that were being built were being absorbed by persons wanting to buy them to put them in the Airbnb market. Right? So that was one thing. Beneficial, every time we speak about this, I have issues remembering it. Economic substance legislation by the EU.
Yes.
That said that no longer could businesses registered in the Cayman Islands simply or operate in the Cayman Islands simply have a tag on some attorneys, a nameplate. They had to have a desk and a chair and someone sitting in that.
Yep.
So we adapted. A lot of places, a lot of law firms and financial services firms offered desks and chairs for people to sit in and stuff. But one of the unintended consequences, and maybe a benefit for us in some areas, and created challenges for us, mainly now in the higher end, was that these companies came down, the persons came down, said, well, let's go have a look. We have to establish an office in the Cayman Islands, or we're going to have to move to Ireland or Toronto or Jersey, wherever. They came down, they had a look, and they went, wow. Their wives came because it was a little bit of a vacation. They went, I'm not leaving. And they decided to move their offices here. And I know, we all know, I don't think it's not public knowledge, that some of the larger buildings being built now, in particular in Camana Bay as well, that were going to be residential, and a lot of the focus that was on residential went to commercial to create space for these businesses to move here. You see the boom at Cricket Square, you saw it at Camana Bay, large commercial buildings popping up because there was a demand for commercial space to house these companies. And then once the buildings finished and these companies started to move here, there was a demand for seats in the school. So you saw CIS double its size. There was a demand, and you see new schools popping up.
Yes.
There was a demand for housing, and like I said, a lot of the housing was more in the mid to higher, but those were all contributors to the housing crisis that we see now, and it's around the world. And Cayman is not the only place, especially with cost, and nobody really has found the answer to it. And every jurisdiction is unique, so we just can't adapt what Canada does or what Hong Kong does. Every jurisdiction and its needs are unique. But what we can do, OC, and this is a good point to transition from the National Development Plan into housing.
Yeah, and we'll take the break before the transition. You want?
No, I said we can transition into housing when we get back from the break.
Okay, excellent. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. The conversation with Deputy Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament, Mrs. Joy Hugh, will continue, so please stay tuned.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
So much happening so fast, too much. It is hard for me to follow my health care instructions. The private counseling with West Bay Pharmacy literally saved my life.
At West Bay Pharmacy, we know how complex medications can be. Our pharmacists are delighted to offer you personalized one-on-one healthcare counseling, free medication review, therapeutic callbacks, and we will liaise with your physician to ensure you receive the best in quality medical care.
Quality of life has a whole new meaning with the right pharmacy to support you. Thank you, West Bay Pharmacy.
West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient quality care is just around the corner. Now you can WhatsApp your West Bay Pharmacy prescriptions to 516-0777.
Grand Cayman's biggest one-day family fun day is back. The 54th annual Agricultural Show at the Stacey Watler Agricultural Pavilion in Lower Valley. Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Raffle tickets are on sale now. And for only $25, you can win $20,000 and so many other prizes. Raffle tickets include general admission to the show. For more information, visit them on Facebook or caymanagriculture.com.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu starting at just $3.50 gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shudden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value menu. The deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
System 1 loaded. 1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Deputy Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. So, Mr. Hugh, one of our listeners has written in and they're questioning as far as individual housing is concerned, what can be done to protect those areas from intrusion by the larger companies that now want to build, condos. We see them moving out from the beach area. They're running out of beach area or waterfront areas, and now moving. I mean, when I noticed it on Sunday, a huge apartment complex being built on the left-hand side just before you approach the blowholes in East End. So we see them continue to move further eastward, and that's the only place that those persons who want to own a plot of land and have a single-family house. Those are the only places for them to go. What can be done?
That's a good observation. The short answer to that is zoning.
Yeah. Okay.
So National Development Plan again. So I'm sorry. Everything that I've heard the government say, I heard the Premier crying to the Chamber of Commerce about having to reopen the country and all these things. It's 2 years later, guys. 2 years later. Reopening the country was just simply removing the quarantine. Everything else was done. We were open. We were operating. You were given a very good budget with a backup line of credit, which you've drawn down on. So you had no issues with financing. And we're 2 years in. It's time to stop blaming the previous administrations, and it's time to stop talking about COVID. We're 2 years past that. So the National Development Plan, call it what you want to call it, name it after yourself, I don't care, but we are 2 years in. Something should have been done by now. And that is the only way to deal with the situation with housing, is to zone areas for low-density residential. In fact, put conditions on those zonings that no tourism activity, no commercial activity, etc., so that those areas are reserved. When someone is developing it, they have to appreciate what the market is going to be there. And there won't be as much, or shouldn't be, any banking of housing for Airbnb, for whatever the case may be. Medical tourism in East End, I'm sure that's what that is about. So, you know, it's and then also we got to look at housing. I don't think everyone, I think the days of Caymanians wanting to, we would wish for it, have their own yard and plant some cassava and stuff like I do. I have my own chickens, I have my own garden, I grow my own vegetables. In fact, we had a meal on Sunday that was all out of the yard except for the meat.
Okay.
I don't have enough space for the cow. But, you know, the full meal came from our garden, you know. And,
excellent.
And but they're not all that way. My sons aren't going to be like that. A lot of them don't want a yard. A lot of them want an apartment. They want, you know, they want somebody else to take care of it and that sort of stuff. They wouldn't know which end of a lawnmower to push. So that's a sad that's a reality.
Yes.
And so we have to zone for all of those things, but we have to put protection mechanisms in there that keeps the prices down, so that speculation for I can sell off all these condos for Airbnb and all that sort of stuff, that goes out the window. So that brings the pricing down. That brings the you know, perhaps one of the things that helps reduce the cost is, you know, do you need all of those amenities, you know, that you do for tourism-related places and people in short term? Do you need the 25-meter pool? Do you need the state-of-the-art gym? Do you need the rooftop gardens and barbecue areas and all that kind of stuff? These are things that drive costs up and are attractive for persons investing for tourism and that sort of stuff. So your zoning is your first the first line of defense on that. But also, you know, OC, we had back in June, in fact, gosh, that was June 21. MP David White brought a motion to the House, and I'm just going to read it quickly.
Sure.
Whereas the rising cost of land and home ownership has made it increasingly challenging for young Caymanians looking to build or purchase their first home, and whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has made obtaining a home even more difficult, given the economic downturn and the disruptions to the global supply chain that has increased the cost of imported goods, including building supplies, and whereas all the above pressures on housing costs and cost of living in general has been exasperated by the Russian-Ukraine war, which is further driving up the cost of goods. And whereas the USA experienced an 8.5% inflation rate in March 2022, a 41-year high, so this was June 2022, 41-year high, with Cayman's domestic overall inflation rising by 7.6% over 2021, but with the housing and utilities component rising by 11.5% and expected to climb higher in 2022. And whereas in response to inflationary pressures, the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Bank of England have begun increasing interest rates, thus impacting interest rates in Cayman, which will make the cost of loans and mortgages and thus home ownership even higher for Caymanians. And whereas the Cayman Islands government has announced a record budget surplus of some $221 million, so I'm going back to, they were handed over a country in a good financial position as of March 2022, which includes an effective windfall of $18.6 million, more than was initially budgeted, a windfall that should allow government to reduce stamp duty to Caymanians in a meaningful way, especially for housing. Be it therefore resolved that the government considers a matter of urgency amending the Stamp Duty Act as follows. For the first-time Caymanian property home buyers, zero duty on land only with a value of up to $200,000, and for houses, apartments, or other dwelling purchases with a market value of CI $500,000 for owner occupation. And B, 2% duty on a value above $200,000 on land purchases, and for houses, apartments, or other dwellings purchased for ownership occupation on the value above $500,000. I'll go back and explain those in a minute. C, in cases where the property is transferred to 2 or not more than 10 persons who are first-time Caymanian home ownerships, 0% duty for bare land purchases with a market value of up to $350,000, and houses, apartments, or other dwelling purchases with a market value of up to $600,000 for owner occupation, and 2% duty on the value above $350,000 on raw land purchases, and for houses, apartments, or other dwelling purchases for owner occupation on the value above $600,000. For property purchased by a Caymanian that does not fall into the first-time Caymanian property home buyers scheme, D, 5% stamp duty for Caymanian persons only. Moved by MP, Mr. David White MP, elected member for Georgetown West, and seconded by Ms. Barbara Conley MP, elected member for Georgetown South. So I just wanted to go back and review these. So these are increases on the current law as it stands, on land from $150,000 to $200,000, and on homes from $400,000 to $500,000. But the key here is that if you purchase anything above that value, so if you find a house for $550,000 or $600,000, you only pay 2% on that $50,000 or $100,000 over. So that one of the things with the stamp duty allowance for Caymanians is that usually covers your deposit with the bank, right? Because your value includes that, so you're already ahead of the game.
Right.
And if you buy pre-construction, you're even further ahead of the game, right? And so, we also didn't want to restrict persons that if they found something, $50,000 or $100,000, or we tell people, why should we discriminate a Caymanian that worked hard at school, goes off to university, sacrifices 7 years, gets their master's and come back and want to buy a home in this country? Why should we say to them, you have to buy a $400,000 house? If you can afford one a little more than $400,000.
You shouldn't be penalized for
Shouldn't
that.
be penalized for your success, right? So that was the basis behind that. And then the second one, we thought, you know, the groups of 2 or 10 persons, this is giving young Caymanians an opportunity to come together and get into the market. Buy a set of apartments. Maybe they buy 5 apartments and they stay home with their parents for a little while, rent them out, or maybe they build or they buy land, pool together and buy land with a view that in a couple of years we'll be able to build 20 apartments and we can live in 5 and we can rent out the other 15. So that was the whole reason for that, was to allow, previously you couldn't do that. So that was to allow, to give a further breadth, up to land up to $350,000 or apartments and homes up to $600,000 for owner occupation. So, and then anything above that would be just 2%. So this gives an opportunity for young persons to come together and purchase land or purchase
And whatever happened with that private members?
It was passed unanimously.
Okay.
And nothing else.
Not implemented.
Not implemented.
Okay. All right. Good time for us to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
The Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure presents Garth Guy. A Garth Brooks and Shania Twain tribute show live from Las Vegas on Friday, February 17th at the Agriculture Fairgrounds for a free show. Gates open at 6 p.m. with DJ Flex, Impulse Band, J.R. Douglas, and Dexter Bodden. Food and drink available on site and a chance to win Cayman Airways tickets. Enjoy a night of Garth Brooks and Shania Twain hits at the Agriculture Fairgrounds. Friday, February 17th. Gates open at 6 p.m. and entry is free. Brought to you by the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure, Cayman Airways, Cayman Distributors, Coca-Cola, and Radio Cayman.
It's almost here. The return of the Cayman Islands Agriculture Show, 54 years strong. It's happening Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Get your raffle tickets to win $20,000. Visit them on Facebook or CaymanAgriculture.com.
At Kurt's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you. From cookware to stereos, from power tools to plumbing supplies. Yeah, we got the best goods with the best price and a service to make you smile. At Kurt's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joe Hugh. We have been joined by the Honourable Roy McTaggart, Leader of the Opposition. Mr. McTaggart, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
And thank you to OC for the welcome, and good morning to you. Good morning to my colleague, Deputy Leader.
Good morning.
And also good morning to the wider Cayman Islands, to all who are listening this morning to the programme. My first time back on, I think, for the new year. But hope get things back on track. We'll be here on a regular basis now.
Certainly.
And I appreciate my colleague taking the reins last week with you. I was actually off island last week, attending to death and a family funeral.
Yes,
and so I'm glad to be back.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a question here from, person wanted to know, they said, with regard to the proposed east-west arterial highway, which is controversial because it may adversely impact the central mangrove wetlands, which is crucial to drainage, our ecosystem, etc. Person says they wonder if there will be any consideration of a series of bridges over the wetlands or a causeway built along the coastline of the North Sound of Grand Cayman. These types of solutions exist elsewhere. Just look at the west coast of Florida. Yeah. So that was a question in relation to that. But what people have to realize also is that, okay, we still have to consider the emissions that, that even if you build a causeway on the coast, what the effect of those emissions. So to me, there has to be other built-in factors. We need to, go to more efficient, cleaner types of vehicles as well, which would be, like electric vehicles or something like that. So, if we want to see the benefits of all of these things, it has to be, can't be done, it has to be wholesome, can't be done on an ad hoc basis.
No, it has. And I guess the environmental impact assessment should provide them with options. I think if you use your common sense, if it is just the environment, and in particular, I know my concerns were around the flow of water, especially in the Savannah Newlands area and in Bodden Town. But if you take that into consideration, there should be recommendations whether you do pilings and go over some of those wetlands and the more critical areas. Of course, the culverts, all those sorts of things help. But I do believe that a lot of the objections to the east-west arterial are more centered around the concern of development happening after the road is built. Again, that's a zoning issue.
Yes.
And,
yes.
You have to respect, I don't know, I mean, if you want to say, these large developers bought lots of land, but if a hard-working Caymanian inherited or waited and saved, and this is only land they could buy because it was swampy land, and they wanted their little piece of Cayman and they want to be able to build their house one day, if you want to stop that, then we have to consider, again, zoning. We have to consider, how do we deal with those persons? Do we purchase the land for them and give them a house somewhere else? There's a lot of considerations. It just can't be the drive to object to this road cannot just be because you don't want development in the area. It has to be more than that. And we hope that we would believe that the environmental impact assessment comes back and says, here is how we build the road, and here are the issues in building the road, and here is how we mitigate those. And the government will have to look at whether the cost versus the benefits of building the road are worth it. We all will agree, and we all can appreciate that just building the road is not the panacea for our traffic problems.
Yes.
But it is a critical part from what we know and what we were told by the technocrats in that area. Of course, there's a lot more to be done. We did a lot of it, started a lot of it, completed a lot of it, increasing lanes heading into Georgetown, so that when that flow comes out, there's extra lanes, and perhaps one of those lanes can become a bus lane, and all the other things that it has to be a comprehensive plan, and these are all just parts of it. OC, and we can come back to public transport. We can do a whole show on that if you want. But going back to housing. Sorry, Mr. Leader.
No, go right ahead.
Going back to housing, that private member's motion was passed unanimously in the House in June of last year. Since June of last year, first-time Caymanian buyers have missed out on that extra 100,000 duty-free. First-time Caymanian buyers have missed out on that extra 2% or the ability to purchase something above that with just a 2%. Instead now, if they found the current law says 400,000. So if you found a home or apartment for 400,000, which was becoming very difficult, 420,000, you couldn't get it. You couldn't get the stamp duty. You would have to know someone and apply and beg and all those sorts of things.
Because there's no provision
There's
in
no
terms
provision.
of that
No,
25,
it's 400,000.
Yeah.
400,000.
Yes, yeah.
Right, and you can't join together, and there's so many obstacles in it. I mean, it was, we increased it during our tenure. We increased it from 300,000 to 400,000, and that served its purposes until we had that recent boom and all of the increases in prices. So this could have been something they would have done in their first 2 weeks in office.
What would be the difficulty in implementing that? I'm going to ask that, and then I'm going to ask, and you may answer this or you may not, but from a strategic position, we're 2 years before another election. Is it customary for administrations to hold back on some of the goodies and you disperse them later on, a little closer to the election, so that it is fresh in people's memories? Of course, we have a very smart voting population, and they see through these things these days, as well.
Something as critical as this, OC, and we didn't beat the government over the head with this. We brought it. In fact, I think the Honourable Leader on several occasions pleaded with the government to do something about the cost of living, the cost of housing. And there were several back and forth press conferences and reports. And so a lot of people said to us, well, what do you propose? That was a criticism we got back. So we brought this because this is what we proposed. And the government agreed with us. It was passed unanimously. We also brought the one on traffic, which the government haven't done anything yet on the amount of vehicles being imported, and they shot that down. They basically dismissed it and said, and I will actually read that one later on, or perhaps in another show.
Their comments were that it was premature.
Yes.
And promised at the time in the House that they would unveil their plans for traffic in January. So here we are in February.
Yeah. So these are the issues. We were criticized for not bringing solutions. We also went out to our constituents and to the country and said, what are your concerns? And their concerns were housing, cost of living, and traffic. And so we brought a motion on the customs to reduce the duties on feminine products, and the government informed us that they had already done that, or they were doing that, so that was fine. We were all on the same wavelength there. And then we brought this one on housing, which we thought this is critical to our country. I mean, you know, that 2.5% on persons buying their second home, or, you know, God forbid they lost their first one, or they got divorced, or whatever the case may be, could have been, you know, a matter of right now with the interest rates. OC, we were talking earlier about people no longer qualifying for a home that they may have put a deposit on. That 2.5% reduction may have been the difference. You know, for those that were buying their second home. And for whatever reason, sometimes it could be because they fell in hard times. I am, you know, there's a young lady I speak to who, they had their land and everything and just fell and had hard times and had to sell it. Now, she's never built on that land, and now she no longer qualifies for any sort of reduction in stamp duties. Right? These things happen to people.
Because she's considered to have already made her first purchase.
Right? So that's why we brought this motion. We had to increase it because you can't find places for $400,000 anymore. Despite we just increased that a couple of years ago based on the market at that point. And land as well, $150 up to $200. And then if you wanted, if it was $50,000 more, $10,000 more, or $200,000 more, you only paid 2% duty on that additional value, which was a benefit for everyone. And allowed, because see, one of the things that when I speak to developers, they said to me, Joey, I can't bill for $400,000, sell for $400,000 anymore, right? I can do it for like $450. I can do it for $5. You know, I can make a profit there, but Caymanians don't qualify any longer, and so I don't have a market there. So this would incentivize developers to build in that price category, knowing that Caymanians can now afford it, that Caymanians can now take advantage of the first-time homeowners can now take advantage of the duty concession on those apartments or homes.
Okay.
So, you know, we were disappointed. We are disappointed. I waited. June, what are we, 7 months later, 8 months later, to raise a question. We did submit a parliamentary question in November asking for an update on it. That question has never been answered. You're supposed to submit your answers that you didn't answer in Parliament by writing. We have not received it despite requesting it, despite the clerk sending reminders to the ministry. We have not received any answers on this. This is a crying shame.
Okay, folks, top of the hour, headline news. When we return, with the indulgence of my guests, I'm going to share with them what the Premier said in relation at the Chamber of Commerce's meeting in relation to affordable housing, and let's see if it is in sync with what they're saying and have them critique it as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
The Ministry of Education will introduce and recognize the 2022 Government High School Scholars this evening at a special awards presentation at the Marriott. Attendees will include the Minister for Education as well as several top government officials. Dwayne Promtet, one of the 12 boys rescued from a Thai cave in 2018, has died in the United Kingdom. The 17-year-old was found unconscious in his dorm in Leicestershire on Sunday and taken to the hospital where he died on Tuesday. He had been enrolled in a football academy in the UK since last year. He was captain of the Thai boys football team, which was trapped deep inside a cave for over 2 weeks while exploring a remote province. And a gunman who killed 3 people at Michigan State University had a history of mental illness and used to lie about having a firearm, according to his father. The dad told U.S. media his son had hid a gun in his room after he was banned from carrying firearms in the wake of a 2019 weapons violation. After Monday night's rampage, the suspect was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The victims are Ariel Anderson, Brian Frazier, and Alexandria Verner. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
HSA's cardiology clinic is now located at Smith Road Medical Center. Our cardiology team provides expert care and treatment for heart conditions such as coronary artery disease, heart failure, arrhythmias, hypertension, congenital heart diseases, among others. The new location offers state-of-the-art cardiac diagnostic testing, including echocardiograms, ECGs, and stress tests. To contact, call 949-8600. At HSA, your heart matters to us.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Roy McTaggart, and his Deputy and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hughes. So, gentlemen, just want to bring a little bit of balance, to this, and then also to give you an opportunity to critique what the Premier said in his address to the Chamber of Commerce on the 9th of February. I think that would have been last week, Thursday, right? Says here we must build more affordable housing. A significant portion of every Caymanian's annual family budget goes towards housing. If we can reduce that burden, we can put more money in people's pockets and provide cost of living relief. Building more affordable housing means the construction of apartment blocks and single-family homes, but it also means examining our laws to allow us to take advantage of the land we have to increase density and build more homes. Building up 2 or 3 stories, not 30 stories, is the case. Will allow us to conserve our land, add more housing units to the market, and bring down cost. Denser communities will also help us address our transportation and health issues by improving walkability in our country. Affordable housing is a key plank of our Cayman sustainability, is a key plank of our Cayman sustainability agenda, and we are committed to facilitating the conditions which allow the private sector to deliver housing at lower costs. The National Housing Development Trust is also poised to deliver 100 affordable homes in the next 2 years. Now, of course, this is, an overall thing. It doesn't really go into specifics, per se.
I would say, though that's we would all agree with that, that we need more affordable housing. There's nothing there. It's what the Premier hasn't articulated on is how do you deliver that, and where do you deliver that? I think everyone would agree that there is a genuine need for more affordable housing. And to hear that they are National Housing Development Trust is poised to deliver within the next 2 years, some 100 homes. I know that their list is probably far greater than that, and so yes, they are making. If they are successful in delivering that in next 2 years, then they will have made a substantial dent into the number of people who are waiting and who have applied for those homes. But I've not heard a whole lot of detail as to exactly where these homes are going to be built. I do know that I've heard of some in West Bay. I think North Side, his area. But what I have heard, to me, does not add up to 100 homes, for one. And, Georgetown is one of those areas where there is a desperate need. And I'll leave it right there for right now.
I'll take it a step further. And the 100 homes over the next 2 years is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. And again, like I said, I've always said it, and I continue to say, the National Housing Development Trust has to, and it should, expand its purview. should take responsibility for housing across the board, whether it be rental, for Caymanians that is, rental, ownership, whatever the case may be. And they have to introduce newer programs. They have to introduce further programs than just building single-family homes. Right? There are young men and women out there that will never get married. Do they need a 3-bedroom home? Do they need a full home with a yard? We spoke about that earlier, about some of our kids just aren't interested. They prefer an apartment complex with a pool or whatever. And there are programs that are available across Canada, across the UK, in the US, where government participates in shared ownership. Shared ownership where you and the government go into partnership in purchasing an apartment or a home, and each year you can continue to buy percentages out from the government. If you sell your percentage or you sell that home, it continues to increase in value, by the way. It has to be sold to someone else in the program. Right? Or you sell it back to the government and you get your returns on it, and then you move on to perhaps buy a home because you've now changed. You've married somebody, you want to have children. And together you can go and buy a home. Right? There are many programs like that. We put together a group, OC, just before COVID, unfortunately, and I hate saying that. It's
you have the biggest COVID as well, right?
Biggest disappointment in my 4 years as I said it was. You know what? I've changed. I used to say that was the biggest disappointment in my 4 years as a minister. That I had to deal with a landfill fire, earthquake, and then COVID. But then I say perhaps my calling was to be there for those times. But there was so much more I wanted to do outside of those issues. But I just pulled up, an article I was looking through this morning, and I found an article on what we were doing because I following some of the U.S. politics, I didn't take classified documents with me. So, it was a group we put together under the Deputy Governor's office, and it was between my ministry and the Housing Ministry, the Honourable Dwayne Seymour at the time. And the unit was called SRIU, and it was headed up by a very talented, very intelligent young Caymanian, Mr. Matthew Hilton. And they held an initial series of think tank sessions, and then he said the SRIU will be moving on to the second phase of consultations, which will involve detailed exploration of the key issues and potential solutions identified in phase 1 sessions in order to advance the work required to identify solutions that address the main affordable housing concerns, the release said. This report, which Mr. Hilton told me just before, during COVID, towards the end of COVID, that he would be putting his attention back to that after I think he was involved in Cayman, Travel Cayman. Oh, yes. So he said he would be going back to that. Everything is there. He just needs to compile it. But we came up with we sat first with all of the agencies to find out what did we need for housing for Caymanians, but also needs assessment unit, everything. And it was, for the next 10 years, we were looking at, whether it was, I think it was like 120 multifamily units. This is NAU now. This is not National Housing Development Trust. They needed, 20 or 30 one-bedrooms, single individuals, and then they also needed, which I found interesting, they needed a they needed a transition home for young Caymanians coming out of the government programs where they are where they're placed with guardians.
Okay, yeah.
And then once they become 18, they're not adopted, they've just been placed by government. And then when they become 18,
for like foster homes.
The foster homes, they're no longer qualified to be in the foster homes. So what they needed was a semi, sort of a midway home where they go into, and the social worker will check on them in the morning, will check on them in the evening, a place where they can have some freedom, they can begin their life, and as they're going, they get a job and stuff like that, then they can move on. So it's a halfway house between coming out of the program and
you avoid people being out on the street. Yes.
And you avoid people being out on the street or going back into the environment where they can find themselves in trouble. So this place would be managed by the government, but rather than it being like a Bonaventure House type of thing, it's basically just a halfway house for persons transitioning into the community that may not have the ability otherwise. So these were the needs that they identified. So we said, okay, great. And then we started talking about how can we, incentivize Caymanians that have the property, but don't have the means to develop it and to take advantage of this real estate boom that's happening. And B, how do we achieve the needs of the needs assessment unit as well as first-time Caymanian purchasers. So the ideas that were floating were where we say to a Caymanian landowner, and also one of the key things that we want to do was to not put all of any demographic in one area, but to create social diversification across the board. So from East End to West Bay. And what we would do is we would say to a landowner, if you own acreage, we would say to you, okay, we're going to waive planning fees, we're going to give you concessions on materials, etc. We're also going to give you, if you're going to build 5 units, we're going to give you a 10-year guaranteed lease on 2 units out of the 5. Right? So that fills a need for needs assessment.
Right.
You have a situation there now where those, they're placed there through a vetting system by the needs assessment unit, and these persons have an opportunity to live in dignity and in social diversification. Yes. And then the owner of that property then has the ability, perhaps with some guidelines as far as rentals and things, that to enter into the free market with the other 3 units.
Yes.
And so those are the kind of ideas we're coming up with, because it can't just be building 100 homes every 2 years. That actually is an ambitious task, right? We have to have other programs, and not everyone wants to go live in a housing community of that sort. Not everyone wants to have a home with a yard. And how do we spread that out? I mean, let's learn a lesson from our schools, because that's a continued discussion about the social diversification, right? I have friends all over the world that went to John Gray High School as me, or Georgetown High School as it was called at that time. I have very good friends who are now Caymanians that came here as expatriates, as young kids, and entered into the school system with us, and we commingled. So if we take or learn a lesson from that, if we take a slice from that, then we know that we need to also continue to create social diversification. And if you want to take it even further, a part of that might be to incentivize someone to build, as the Premier talked about, a high-rise apartment complex on the land side of West Bay Road. But government concessions, NHDT gets X amount of the units and sells them, vets persons that are young Caymans, young lawyers, doctors, who want to go live on West Bay Road. Social diversification again. But these are the programs we have to do.
Okay, folks, we have to take a commercial break. I believe we do have a caller on hold. We will try to accommodate that caller as soon as we return. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the fear.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
Grand Cayman, the concert you've been waiting for is almost here. Cayman Airways, the Ministry of Tourism, Palmyra Development, and Tortuga presents three-time Grammy Award winner Gramps Morgan. Gramps Morgan.
What I'm feeling. Hey, Gramps Morgan here, telling you about my appearance. Man, listen, man, we're moving from the Mango Tree to the Lion Center. Seeing February 18, 8 o'clock. So we're moving from February 11th to the 18th. Date has been pushed back 1 week because the ticket sales have been overwhelming. I'm excited to see most of you guys. New date, get your tickets now. Gramps Morgan live, February 18, Cayman Islands. Gramps Morgan. Blessings.
Tickets are $45 pre-sold. VIP tables available. Get online at CaymanEvents.co or at Mango Tree. Part of the proceeds to Meals on Wheels. Gramps Morgan.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Roy McTaggart, and his Deputy and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. The caller hung up, so hopefully they will call back before the show is over. So I'm going to throw the mic back over to you, gentlemen.
So I do. Thank you, Mosi. I do have a message someone sent me, and I just got permission to read that message. It's a story. It sums up where we are today, and I want to go back to what you talked about beforehand, about why the government haven't acted on this motion that passed in June of last year that would have helped so many Caymanians. And if they're even thinking about it, and if they're going to come back and say, you know what, we're going to do something even greater, we're going to enhance this, it should not have taken this long. And they could have simply enacted what was passed and then later on come back and increase it. But look at the amount of time that has passed that people have missed out on the opportunity to better themselves. Mm-hmm. And we have not seen anything across the board to help our people deal with. I mean, they're still talking about, things that were done during our time, like the waiver fees for small businesses and the grants that stopped and tourism stipends that stopped a year ago now. They're still saying those and have those listed on their website as help for Caymanians during this period. So here, let me read this story. Good day, sir. Hope all is well. The fact of the matter is, large majority of Cayman households are feeling the cost of living pinch. Imagine a co-worker of mine this month received the following: property insurance up $1,500 this year. Bank notified him of interest rate hikes again this month. CUC announced a raise in rates. Another co-worker, when he got his mortgage in 2010, his monthly payment was $1,650. Now it's $2,300. Plus he added 8 years of lifespan term. He actually told me he and his wife discussed selling the house and renting instead, because at least then he would have extra money monthly because he wouldn't have to pay the property insurance and the property maintenance. Mm-hmm. Every other country in the world is tackling inflation. UK government goal is to halve it in 12 months. PAC has done nothing, to my knowledge, to bring down the inflation. PPM will have to lead from the opposition to get our people some relief. So this is coming from persons out there saying, we're crying out here and we're not getting anything, and then pleading for us to lead from the back and have town hall meetings, financial advisors, better to help people with household budgets and loan consolidations and that sort of stuff. all good recommendations. But I mean, these are the things that
real life issues
that people are facing, and we have been patient. We have been quiet. As I said, we were criticized for not putting solutions forward. We put a traffic solution forward that was just dismissed, point blank dismissed. Nothing has been done. We put this housing solution forward. It was passed unanimously in Parliament. Nothing has been done. Public transport. I heard the Premier's comments on that. I can tell you, I can bet you that this public transport study that they're doing is only to introduce buses that I believe they have already decided on and on what buses they're going to purchase. And it's just simply an exercise to see how do we implement a bus system. That is not a mass public transportation study. That is not a study. That is, how do we know that that's what we need? How do we know that just putting a couple of big buses on the road is going to be the solution? So I'm not confident that we are going to see anything. And if we do, I'm happy. If they want to come back and slam me and reveal all of their wonderful plans and not just reveal them but actually implement them, then I'm happy for our people. But that's my rant for the morning.
Okay, we do have a caller, so let's grab the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very grateful. You?
Fine, thanks.
Okay. Good morning to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Good morning, ma'am.
To the Honourable Deputy.
Good morning.
I have a question. It's slightly different than what you're talking about, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Deputy used to be in charge of planning. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so my question is, while you were in charge of planning, I'm just trying to ascertain whether this law changed or did not change. And I'll tell you what the present situation is. It's a property owner. The property is not developed, but the owner wanted to have the property cleared. So they hired someone to do the clearing, and then the person said, where's your planning permission? And they said, what are you talking about? And they said, yeah, you have to make an application to planning now. That has to be approved. And then there is a fee that you have to pay. And as I'm understanding it, the fee is based on, like the charge per house lot sort of thing. And I didn't hear anything about this. I was just wondering if, the person had gotten it wrong, or are you aware that this changed, and when did it change? And the last thing I'm going to say to that, how is that now going to encourage property owners, as we have been begging for, to clear their undeveloped land, if you're going to be charging them for an application to do so?
That, just to answer, that law, that still stands as far as I know. If it has changed, I don't know. You did require planning permission to clear land. And it's not a CPA decision, it's a planning department decision. And the reasons for that is to take into consideration your neighbors, to take into consideration if it's protected lands, or if there's a possibility of flooding and things of that nature. So there are certain areas that require a more delicate approach, I guess, if you want to say that. I mean, we dealt with one in one of my constituencies the other day in a very low-lying area, and they were just simply doing some... this is why I know that it was still in place up until the summer of last year. They were doing some core testing, but they went in with all these machines and just started to clear. So we called planning, and planning went down and stopped them, because you do need permission to clear property. So as far as I know, it still stands. I'm not familiar with the fee structure, but I don't think it's prohibitive.
Okay, so the previous law then that was in place, where planning said you own property, you have to keep it cleared and clean, that one went out the door then.
No, that's a DE. That's a environmental health. If your property is being used to dump stuff, or you're not keeping it, and if it's encroaching on the roadside, that's NRA. So there are certain rules that you have to follow. But if you're going to clear raw land, you are supposed to get permission from planning first. If it's land that's been cleared and you're putting a bush hog.
Yeah, and this land is in, what do you call it, a high-density residential area. So.
Right. So if it is a land that was like a subdivision and it was just overgrown and you're going to put a bush hog in there, that's fine. But if it's raw land, uncleared land previously, and you're going to go in there and clear the land, you did require permission.
Oh, Mr. Hugh, just bear with me. You said that if it's, just raw land, that it's okay.
No.
In other words, it's okay to go ahead without an application, or you still need that application and to have it approved?
As far as I know, you still need that application.
Okay.
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. One of our listeners has written and said, just want to say, National Housing Trust has not built homes for Georgetown in many years. The last homes built were those on July Street. Says what has been happening is that they have been making Georgetowners take homes out of town, like Bordentown, which is so unfair to Georgetowners. I have been told they are not going to build any homes in Georgetown. Person says that while they were on this board, they fought hard for Georgetown to get land. Now we have the land and nothing is being done. The over in the Cox area there, is that land still available there, and aren't there plans to build there now?
That land is still available, OC. The National Housing Trust looked at the value of that land. A, whether it was suited in that more commercial area now on Eastern Avenue as suited for homes, and B, that's a small parcel, but from the value of that land, they were able to purchase a much greater parcel of land, which is up on the Linford-Pearson Highway. 25 acres in total. And that was supposed to be, the idea there was to, if you remember my vision on Georgetown revitalization was to evolve it into the surrounding areas for urban development. So, helping to develop urban areas, and I think the Premier touched on it in his speech as well. And the whole idea up on the 25 acres were to do some apartments, townhouses, homes, a little bit of retail, laundromat, so make it a little community, right? That, I think, has met with some objections by persons, and I'll go out on a limb and say some of them just don't want government housing in their backyards, but there's also a concern about flooding. And so the government, I think, are considering or reevaluating that site. But again, we have not got any conclusive answers from them, and we've questioned them. But what amuses me is that other developments are being given permission all along that stretch. I also know of persons that invited the government to purchase property to save the mangroves and for flooding and stuff, and they were told that it wasn't worth saving. Right in the same vicinity. So I do have, I'm at a loss with the lack of information from the government. I am at a loss as to where they are, whether they're going to go back to building on Eastern Avenue, which would be limited. I think you can probably hold, if you're going to do houses there, just a few homes, or whether they're going to develop that 25 acre site, or whether they are looking for another site in Georgetown. We had heard rumors that they were looking at a site in Newlands, and our answer to that was that is not Georgetown.
And in the House as well, I when it was being aired, I asked the minister, because he indicated that there was plenty of land in Georgetown that they were looking at, and I asked specifically where, and asked him several times to tell us specifically where, and got quite testy, and I didn't get an answer. So you know, we are trying to get and bring these things into the light to get them, you know, in a public arena so people understand what's going on. But it has proved to be particularly difficult to do so, OC.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. We do have a caller, and I have one WhatsApp message here that this is a very interesting concept that the person has put forward, and is sort of almost in line with what Mr. Hugh spoke about earlier, and I'll share that with the listening audience as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
West Bay, home to Barkas National Park, the touristy flair, a family community, a political powerhouse. From sports enthusiasts to car aficionados, affection for silver thatch rope. No matter how far you may venture, West Bay will always be where the heart is. Home will always be in West Bay. West Bay Pharmacy, caring for your home and your family. West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient, quality care is just around the corner.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN Money Transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
Start your day in the know. Don't miss a beat. Radio Cayman's 7 a.m. news keeps you informed every Monday through Saturday at 7 a.m. Proudly brought to you by Walkers, a reputation for excellence. Learn more about the Walkers Scholarship and Legal Training Program at walkersglobal.com.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have a caller, but before we go to the caller, I'll share this as well. This person says, good morning. This show is excellent. Said, I have a concept of a Cayman sovereign wealth fund that would own the apartments and/or single family homes and give them to eligible Caymanians. Their cost would be maintenance and upkeep. All the interest and principal that would have gone to private banks is now spent in the local economy. Not to mention, the Crown owns a lot of property that can be transferred to the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which eliminates the issue of expensive land costs. These Sovereign Wealth Fund homes would be deed restricted to only eligible Caymanians who can only use the property as a personal residence. It cannot be sold or rented to make profits. Very interesting. I'll have you gentlemen opine on that after we take the caller. Two callers. So we're going to take those two callers, and we'll probably have some restricted access to the lines after that to give our guests an opportunity as well. So let's grab these two callers. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, and to your guests.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I have a question too about the wetland. Like, the wetland in the eastern district is only value, not in the western part of the island. Okay. I see what they're doing is moving the eastern district to the western district. And when I say that, I mean like filling in all of the swamps. So they got 5 quarries on the eastern side, and all we're going to be leaving is 5 holes up there. I guess we got plans for some swimming pool or another to utilize them with, I don't know, our floating houses that will go into them, which I don't see why we should be taking that and putting on the wetland on West Bay Road. And I just hear them in the deputy leader say that they bought property on the Linford Pearson Highway to the government house. That's going to take fill again. you know, and what we gonna do? Continue digging the Eastern District, and we have nowhere for future generation. They're the kind of things that the DOE should be looking at, and environmental set, instead of putting up laws about chicken and cat. These are more important than chicken and cat. Are they showing us that chicken and cats are more important than the people of these islands? No? When we gonna get this road from the Eastern District, we are punishing. You know, I come to work 2 hours before time just to get up the traffic. Right, 2 hours of being gone. I live on the eastern side of the island. When they gonna do that?
Okay. Thank you very much, caller, for that. They'll take a note and they will respond to you. Let's grab the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O'Connor.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, and good morning to Mr. Hugh and Mr. McTaggart.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I read it in the newspaper once concerning the Auditor General's report concerning concessions. And in the report, the Auditor General said that Caymanians were not, there was nothing to be shown for Caymanians concerning these concessions that have been given away. What exactly is the agreement when it comes to these concessions?
Is there a specific one? I know that when the couple of concessions we gave on the way back in 13-14, there were a couple of hotels that were going into bankruptcy and new owners were coming in. And part of the concession would be that they would spend, there were tens of millions in renovations, and that they would hire at least 60% Caymanians to do the renovations, and each company that was hired had to hand in reports showing that 60% of their staff were Caymanian. Those were the sort of concessions that were entered in then. It was to keep the hotels open. It was on the heels of a recession. Unemployment was over 10%, and the government needed revenues from the hotel room tax, etc. So the decisions were made then to incentivize these new purchasers. We received the stamp duties. I think in one case, the stamp duty was paid in increments. And then the work being done, I think one was $30 million and one was $50 million in renovations were done, and the persons working on the site, 60% had to be Caymanian. And then we could only rely on the reports that were provided to us then. So I think those hotels now are contributing tremendously to the government coffers through the room tax, etc., which are then obviously used for social programs and stuff. Those were the concessions we did then. I think other concessions that we were not involved in, like the NRA agreement with DART, or we opened the Health City, but that agreement was done previously as well. Those also, again, were areas that the government felt, or at the time, saw the need for the roads in the NRA agreement, and on the Health City agreement, it was to begin or to kickstart medical tourism, and then of course government makes its money from persons coming in and room tax, etc. once again. So I think those are the basis behind those sorts of, I assume those are the types of concessions that the caller is talking about.
Caller, you still there?
Yes. Well, concerning the 60% that's supposed to be building the buildings, that's why now these concessions are so important, whether it's cash or an agreement in some other way. Because right now we're supposed to have, when I say a professional trade school, I mean a professional trade school, not a classroom. Right now we're supposed to have a trade school in at least every district in the Cayman Islands when it comes to concessions. And concerning the port, when the referendum was going around, concerning building this port, the coronavirus came in. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I signed against it. That is why we have a problem now on the 7 Mile Beach where the sun is gone. Because we make people come around here and tell us what to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller, for that as well. I saw an article. I'm trying to remember whether or not it was Cayman News Service or recently. They based on a Freedom of Information request, something to do with the Fraser Welland properties, the watercolors and stuff like that, and there was some indication that it was something like about $8-something million in concessions that were granted to them.
That one
was that under your again, under the progressive?
Under the progressives. I don't remember the particular year, but they
would have been in the early years.
Again, that was to keep the momentum going to get new development started. In particular, but also there was a cry that we need other players in that luxury market than just the one player, which we're thankful for. The Dart was in there. And so that was done, and that project, again, had to be 60% Caymanians on site, etc. But the planning fees in that project alone were well over that concession, well over.
And they weren't waived?
No. They weren't waived.
Okay.
No. And the stamp duties that have been coming in, because those units have gone from starting at 4 million up to 6 million, are now
10 million, something like
10
that.
and 19 million, and they've transferred a few. And because we closed that loophole as well, stamp duties have been paid and collected on those. And at the time we had the Economic Statistics Office. Mr. Leader, remind me. I think the Economic Statistics Office said that for every dollar in construction, the trickle-down effect was...
It was more than 2 times.
2 times.
Yeah,
2.5 times.
2.5 times.
And this project, the project was a $300-something million project. So to get a $300-something million project going, the ESO said that the trickle-down effect would be 2.5 times the value of the project.
Yeah, because the study, the work that they did for us with regard to the multiplier showed that construction had the biggest multiplication factor in terms of its overall effect on the Cayman economy.
Okay, we're going to take our last commercial break, and we've closed the phone lines off now, gentlemen, so to give you both an opportunity to cover some of the other areas that you want to cover as well. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
There you go, sir. Thanks for choosing JN Money Transfer.
Boy, thanks to JN Money Transfer, I can stay right here in Cayman and pay Mama bills back home in Jamaica. Her water, light, phone, and other bills never late. Every month I pay everything in one place.
Make payments to over 30 companies in Jamaica through JN Money Transfer. Fast, affordable, convenient. Call 1-800-744-1163 for details.
So much happening, so fast, too much. It is hard for me to follow my health care instructions. The private counseling with West Bay Pharmacy literally saved my life.
At West Bay Pharmacy, we know how complex medications can be. Our pharmacists are delighted to offer you personalized one-on-one healthcare counseling, free medication review, therapeutic callbacks, and we will liaise with your physician to ensure you receive the best in quality medical care.
Quality of life has a whole new meaning with the right pharmacy to support you. Thank you, West Bay Pharmacy.
West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient quality care is just around the corner. Now you can WhatsApp your West Bay Pharmacy prescriptions to 516-0777. The 6:15 Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by CG Britcay. Insurance, health, pensions, life, where people come first.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning with the Honorable Roy McTaggart, Leader of the Opposition, and his Deputy, Mr. Joey Hugh. Just to add one more, and I think this goes back to your one of the discussions that you had with one of the callers. It says, morning, Mr. Hugh. Also, I have a property next to me where the tree roots are growing towards my house. It's cracking up the walls in my house. I asked them to take down the tree, and the owner said that it can't be taken down. But if it is not to be taken down by them, I will chainsaw the roots in my yard myself. That was said to me by the owner, but she said she was told by the planning department that she didn't have to take the tree down. I guess if we were in the UK or something like that, and you chainsaw the roots, then you probably end up with a lawsuit against you, because I've seen some really contentious ones over there with neighbors. And but I would imagine that if a tree root encroaches on your property, it is on your property, and you have the right to cut it out.
Yeah.
I believe you're right.
And I would say that. And also, I had another issue with that, and I actually was able to amicably resolve it with the landowners. But if there is a tree in your property, that you are responsible for maintaining that tree. And if the tree overhangs in the road, the National Roads Authority comes and tells you, you have to maintain that tree and cut it back from the road. If your tree goes into the power lines, CUC will come and tell you the law says you have to maintain that tree or cut it down. And I would think that even just out of courtesy, but certainly if someone's tree is intruding on your yard, causing damage in your yard, then it is that the owner of that tree's responsibility to maintain the tree.
Yeah, yeah. And
if it poses physical threat, then they are taking responsibility for it.
Right. And very quickly, one person wanted to know about the old Hyatt property. Why is that allowed to remain in the condition that it is? I don't know if that has that area been purchased by the DART Corporation?
Yes. There were a few occasions that during our time that some action was taken towards them. I think they cleaned it up at one time, stripped it out. They cleaned it a few times. There was even some graffiti there that they painted over, but there was always a plan, something in planning. There was supposed to be a hotel there first, and then thoughts of a residential complex and stuff. I think the delay in the project has been because of a court case between DART and the Britannia community.
Yes.
But the property itself should be maintained to it's in my constituency, and we often call them if we see junk pile up there, if we see lewd spray paint, what's that?
Graffiti.
And they've always taken care of it. I think planning perhaps, or maybe DEH would be the agencies that perhaps if they get to the point where they say it's unsafe or poses a health risk or unsightly, then they could take action on it.
Okay, gentlemen, the mic is yours for the next 10 minutes.
We do have I'll hand over to because I think I've spoken enough this morning, but we do have a parliamentary committee meeting at 10 that we'll need to shoot out of here in a couple of minutes to catch that.
Okay,
as well.
Several of those were cancelled recently, weren't they?
Well, quorum, we've not been able to, we haven't had one since
March of last
year.
Wow.
And quorum has been a challenge.
Yeah, it was last week. We were scheduled to have a meeting last week, Wednesday, but we did not get a quorum, so it was postponed.
There.
Yeah, opposition was there.
I just want to make it clear.
The quorum, and so we've called for a meeting this morning at 10 o'clock. There's a lot of business. This is the Parliamentary Management Council.
Okay.
That is responsible for the administration of the Parliament, and all aspects of it. So there's a lot of business that we need to go through and to deal with. So
curious, there has been a lot of talk about a parliamentary library, an area for research and everything. Where are we with that? Any progress being made?
I don't think it's advanced very far, OC. There has been talk about it for many years. I think what they have finally concluded is that a separate structure needs to be built because there's no space within the halls of Parliament there to accommodate it and to provide the facilities that are being contemplated. So there is, it would have to be a separate structure that is constructed to accommodate that. And you are constrained by the property itself in terms of what can be done, because you would have to take out, I think, a good portion of the parking lot. So the only space available now is space that the old Tower Building site, which had been designated by us as Seafarers Park. So there's some real challenges and constraints.
And the building wasn't designed for you to go higher?
No,
I
don't think so.
I think there is a drawing. I do know that there was a drawing, a concept drawing, to go over the parking lot. Right, so to build a building on the side of over the parking lot
between the town hall and
no, in the back. And then I also know that when we designed Seafarers Park, we allotted some of that property to the Legislative Assembly. So we were going to give them a piece to put this second story above the parking lot. Okay. So the parking lot would be covered and secured as well, similar to GAB.
There you go.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else on my agenda right now. To be prepared more for next week for other issues that I think we need to do. Don't think time really allows it.
Okay,
So I'll turn it over to my colleague and just thank you again, OC, for hosting us this morning, and say to you, have a great rest of your week, and to the people of Cayman, have a good week.
Thank you.
OC, I will close again with my usual. There, from visual, not from any reports, I saw that there was smoke and possibly a fire at the landfill again this weekend. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to the landfill workers and the fire department for keeping these fires under control. There was smoke and smell, and then I saw they were excavating a spot and pumping water. They've been pumping water on the landfill almost continuously now for the last several months, which in itself is not good. But I want to thank those persons who are responsible for keeping the landfill under control at the moment. And again, continue my plea to the government. Please tell us. Please let us know what you're going to do to manage that landfill properly, to make it safe for the persons working there, and to protect the citizens of Georgetown North who live in the surrounding area.
Okay, one of our listeners, make sure that try to cover everything. This person wanted to know whether or not anything can be, or what are your plans in relation to the labor law, and I guess it would be the minimum wage as well. Say no Caymanian can qualify for a loan to build or buy a home, with the current law and with the current salary structures that are in place. Minimum wage, anything like that?
Well, we are overdue for a review and update of the minimum wage. The law is quite specific. I do recall, again, back in 2018, 19, that work had started. Coming together to put the committee together to look at that and make recommendations. I don't know where it has gotten to, but it is one that I think urgently needs to be addressed in terms of updating the minimum wage in Cayman.
Okay, I'm going to share this one quickly with you, and you may have some comments on this as well. This young man has been, constantly trying to get government support in relation to his venture. And he shared this with me this morning. Turks and Caicos Island, this is from the Turks and Caicos Island government. Minister Josephine Connolly visits Primitive Greens Farm in the Cayman Islands. Honorable Josephine Connolly, Minister of Tourism, Environment, Fisheries and Marine Affairs, Culture and Heritage, Agriculture and Religious Affairs, visited the Primitive Greens containerized farm in the Cayman Islands on Monday, the 13th of February, 2023. The government, in its quest to make Turks and Caicos a more food-secure nation, is exploring various avenues to modernize and ensure the country has a consistent food supply. In the government's People Plan for Empowerment, it was recognized that the global food systems are complex and the volatility of the supply chain, diminishing resources, climate change, geopolitical tensions, and pandemic causes a mismatch between supply and demand. This puts the cost of nutritious foods beyond the ability of ordinary people. The Honorable Minister Conley, accompanied by Permanent Secretary Wesley Clervaux and Director of Agriculture Wilhelmina Kisson Singh, explored the Primitive Greens Farm, containerized facility, and soft first-hand growing operations. They also were presented with Primitive Greens plans for expansion, which include the generation of solar energy to support the containerized farm, which would bring the cost of production down so that the price of the produce marketed to consumers will be significantly lower. A container farm or a freight farm is a climate, and it goes on to say what that is about. I just wanted to point out to you that here we have a situation in the Cayman Islands where some, project is being developed, seeking government assistance. I'm not sure how much they've gotten now as well, but it seems as if we have other jurisdictions that are have an interest in it. And I even said, sarcastically to the person I wrote to them and said, it looks like, you may be able to expand your project over to the Turks and Caicos Islands before you're able to do it here in the Cayman Islands. Any comments?
No, see, I am being a backyard farmer myself. I only read the article in the papers, and it's quite interesting. I've done research and heard about these container farms.
You didn't get an opportunity to visit this?
I haven't visited it, and I don't know what they have asked the government for, or certainly nothing has come by our way. Mm-hmm. I do know from experience, I met with several persons that were trying to bring types of farming here, and that were challenged with utility costs and land costs, as well as one of the things the government looked at is the things that are viable to grow are like the greens that you would sell to the restaurants and stuff. And nobody's willing to grow iceberg lettuce or romaine lettuce in these facilities because the value used to be. And now iceberg, and romaine is like $9 for 2 pieces of romaine lettuce. But previously that used to be $1.50, $2 romaine lettuce, and that's what the locals eat: iceberg and romaine lettuce. They're not interested in the fancy greens and the mixed greens, but that's where the money is. Used to be. Perhaps things have changed now.
I think his issue that he was having was with off-reg and his ability to get permission to produce. His own, generate his own electricity, but also to access to sell it, on the grid as well.
So much has changed you hit the second part. So much has changed at off-reg. I'm not sure, but I do know that there was the ability to do solar for farming and that sort of stuff. But you hit the nail on the head when you said that they also want to sell back to the grid. You can get permission and you can do solar to supply your farm. But it's a different thing. You'd have to enter into the regular programs than to go to it on what they call a utility scale. And that may be his issue. If he wants to go into utility scale solar farming, that is different from providing solar for his farm.
No, I don't think that he wanted to get so much in that. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you again on the 29th of February. That'll be 2 weeks from today. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. I also want to thank those persons who participated in the conversation this morning, either by WhatsApp or by calling in as well. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Ebanks at 12:15 for Talk Today, and remember, if you want to catch that rising tide, you better get yourself into a boat. I say to you, have a great day. God bless, and we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money. From abroad to yard. Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.